Welcome to the world of sci-fi stories, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the channel. Enjoy the listening. Earth's first Star Dreadnought shocks the galaxy. The silent arrival, the emerging empire. The cold silence of space was disturbed by a shadow moving near the edge of the Sol system. It was not a meteor, not a lost satellite. This was something else. Something massive, a fleet of dark ships emerged from the void, their hulls glowing with an eerie blue light. They did not send any signals. They did not ask for permission to enter human space. They simply moved forward, there for formation perfect, their purpose unknown. But humans had seen this before. It was the Star Dominion, an empire that ruled over dozens of planets and enslaved hundreds of species. Their ships had burned worlds, crushed civilizations, and erased entire histories. To them, humans were just another weak race, another species to conquer for years. Earth had prepared for this moment. Governments, military leaders, and scientists all feared the day when a powerful alien force would come. But now that it was finally happening, humanity was not ready. The silent threat, the Star fleet moved closer, their engines leaving behind a faint shimmer of energy. They were here for one reason: to test humanity's strength. They had heard of Earth's rise, of its sudden expansion into space, of its refusal to bow to greater empires. The Star had destroyed countless civilizations before they could even fight back. Now they would do the same to Earth. Inside their flagship, the sealer, Warlord Cyro, stood with his hands behind his back, staring at a large holographic map of the Sol system. His sharp red eyes focused on Earth, a blue dot floating in the vast darkness. Pathetic, he muttered. There are still children playing with fire. A Zeller officer bowed before him. Shall we begin the invasion? Warlord Cyro did not answer immediately. Instead, he turned to another screen, where a small, strange-looking ship was shown. It was unlike any human vessel they had seen before. Bigger, stronger, deadlier. The humans called it Warhammer, a name that meant nothing to the Elar. No human ship had ever won against their fleet before. This one would be no different, but still something about it felt wrong. Earth's desperate response on Luna Base, Earth's main military outpost. On the moon, alarms blared as soldiers and officers rushed into action. The Star fleet had been spotted just beyond Neptune, moving fast. General Marcus Hayes stood in the command center, staring at the large screen showing the enemy's approach. His face was calm, but his fists were clenched. We always knew this day would come, he said. Commander Elena Carter, standing beside him, took a deep breath. Yes, sir, but we are not ready. The general turned toward his officers. Send a warning to Earth. Tell them we are on high alert. The soldier nodded and began typing the emergency message, but deep inside they all knew the Star would not wait for a response. A new hope far from Luna Base. In the secret shipyards orbiting Titan, Earth's first Star Destroyer was nearly complete. The U's Warhammer was unlike any ship humanity had ever built. It was not meant for exploration. It was not meant for defense. It was meant for war, with a hull reinforced by the strongest alloys, weapons capable of shattering moons, and shields designed to withstand even the deadliest energy blasts. The Warhammer was a machine of pure destruction. It was humanity's last hope. Inside the ship, Captain Adrian Wolf walked through the bridge, watching. Ash's crew ran final system checks. They had trained for this. They had prepared. But now it was real. He turned to his chief weapons officer, Lieutenant Jonas Reed. Are we battle ready? Jonas nodded. Yes, sir, but we have never tested her in real combat. Adrian smiled. Then we'll learn fast. A message arrived from Luna Base. The Star were coming fast. Adrian took a deep breath and activated the ship's cons. All hands prepare for battle. The first Star Destroyer of Earth was about to face its ultimate test. The calm before the storm. The Star fleet moved past Neptune. They did not stop. They did not hesitate. Inside the flagship, Warlord Cyro smirked. This will be quick. And Earth people looked to the skies, knowing that soon the battle would begin. And on the Warhammer the crew stood ready knowing they were about to fight. Not just for Earth, but for the future of humanity itself. This was no longer a test. This was war, the birth of the Star Destroyer. The UE's Warhammer floated in the darkness of space, orbiting Titan's secret shipyard. It was the largest warship ever built by humanity, a beast of metal and fire designed for one purpose: to destroy anything that threatened Earth. Inside the massive ship, engineers and technicians rushed through the final system checks. Time was running out. The XL-TAR fleet was only hours away. Captain Adrian Wolf stood on the command bridge, staring at the Warhammer main display. It showed a map of the SUS system, with a red marker blinking near Neptune. The enemy was coming. "We need to launch now," Adrian said. His voice was calm, but there was urgency in his eyes. Lieutenant Jonas Reed, the chief weapons officer, glanced at him. "Sir, we still haven't tested all systems in combat. If something fails," Adrian cut him off, "if we wait any longer, Earth will burn. We launch now." Just hesitated, then nodded. He knew the captain was right. This wasn't just about one ship. This was about survival. The power of the Warhammer. The Warhammer design was unlike any other human ship. While most space vessels were built for exploration or planetary defense, this ship was made for pure destruction. Titanium reinforced hull, stronger than anything the XL-TAR had ever faced. Plasma rail guns, weapons that could punch through an enemy ship like paper. EMP disruptors, capable of shutting down entire enemy fleets. Experimental hyperdrive, faster than anything humans had built before. This was not just another battleship. This was Earth's first Star Destroyer. As engineers finished their final checks, the Warhammer engines hummed to life. Power level stable. A technician reported all systems green. Adrian took a deep breath and gave the order: launch the Warhammer. A Titan awakened. Slowly the Warhammer detached from the shipyard, drifting into the void. Then, with a roar, its engines ignited, sending it soaring toward deep space. From the surface of Titan, scientists and military leaders watched in silence. Some were terrified, others were hopeful. One thing was certain: humanity was no longer running on board. The crew took their stations, hands hovering over controls, eyes locked on their displays. For many of them, this was their first time aboard a warship. For others, it was just another mission. But everyone knew the truth: if the Warhammer failed, Earth was doomed. As the ship moved through space, its long-range scanners detected something disturbing. The sealer fleet was larger than expected, much larger. Jonas cursed under his breath. "There are at least 100 ships, Captain Adrian." His eyes, "and we have one." Silence filled the bridge. The odds were impossible, and yet they had no choice. A deadly first mission. A message came from Luna Base. The XL-TAR had entered the asteroid belt. They were moving faster than predicted. The Warhammer had only one chance to stop them before they reached Earth. Adrian turned to his crew. "This ship was built for war now. It's time to prove it." The crew nodded in unison, their fear replaced by determination. The Warhammer charged its weapons and set a course toward the enemy fleet. The first battle of Earth's Star Destroyer was about to begin. The XL-TAR invasion begins. The Exceller fleet moved like a swarm of black shadows, their ships slicing through the darkness of space. With deadly precision, their weapons hummed with energy, their course locked onto Earth. They had crushed dozens of civilizations before Earth was just another weak planet, another world to burn. Inside the flagship Dreadfang, Warlord Croth watched as his ships entered the asteroid belt. His claws tapped against the control panel. Any sign of resistance? He asked a Zealer officer. "About minimal. Earth's defenses are primitive. Their fleet is scattered." Dyroth smiled. "Then we will make this quick." Humanity's last line of defense on Luna Base. Alarms blared as officers rushed to their stations. General Marcus Hayes stared at the screen. Red dots filled the map. The Siller fleet had arrived. "Be it," he muttered. "They're faster than we thought." Commander Elena Carter turned to him. "Sir, Earth's defense fleet is too far to intercept them in time." Marcus clenched his jaw. There was only one option left. He pressed a button on his console. Warhammer, this is Luna Base. You are Earth's last hope. Engage the enemy. The Warhammer first hunt aboard. The Warhammer. The crew received the message. Captain Adrian Wolf didn't hesitate. Set course for the enemy fleet. Full speed, the ship's engines roared to life, pushing the Star Destroyer forward. Like a meteor, the crew braced themselves. This was it. Enemy fleet detected. Jonas Reed reported over 100 ships. Or Adrian took a deep breath. Then let's see what this ship can do. The first shot. The Excel Tar fleet moved past Mars airships, silent and confident. Then, without warning, the Warhammer appeared, a massive black warship, bigger than anything humanity had ever built. It didn't look like a fender, it looked like a hunter. Zyro frowned. This was not what he expected. Scan that ship, he ordered. His officers worked quickly, but before they could finish, boom, a blast of pure energy tore through space. The Warhammer had fired its main railgun. The shot sliced through a Zeller battleship, cutting it in half. The explosion lit up space like a small sun. The XL turret froze. No one had ever done that to them before. For the first time, the hunters felt like prey. The battle begins. Direct hit. Jonas shouted. The bridge erupted in cheers, but Adrian wasn't smiling. Don't celebrate yet, he said. They're coming. The Exceller fleet snapped out of their shock and opened fire. Lasers, torpedoes, and plasma bolts rained toward the Warhammer. Brace for impact, Elena yelled. The ship shook violently as enemy fire slammed into its shields holding at 72%. An officer reported. Adrian's eyes locked on the enemy fleet. Ship Zero was their target. Their command ship. Adrian ordered the Warhammer guns charged up again. The battle for Earth's survival had just begun. The first clash of titans. The vast darkness of space lit up with blazing energy bolts and exploding ships. The Warhammer had fired the first shot, but now the Sealer fleet was retaliating with full force. Their plasma cannons burned bright as hundreds of weapons locked onto the Star Destroyer. In seconds, a storm of destruction was flying toward the Warhammer. Incoming fire, Jonas shouted. Adrian gripped the armrest of his captain's chair. Shields at maximum, hold the line. The first wave of plasma blast slammed into the Warhammer shields. The ship shuddered under the impact. Blue energy rippling across its hull. Shields down to 56%. An officer reported. They're hitting us hard. Sir Adrian's expression remained calm. They think they can break us. Let's show them they're wrong. A hunter among prey. The Warhammer wasn't like any human ship. Before it didn't dodge or retreated. Advanced. Most human fleets had always relied on hit-and-run tactics. The Warhammer did the opposite. It charged straight into the Cellar formation, its massive cannons glowing as they powered up for another devastating shot. The Excel Tar weren't prepared for a human ship that didn't fear them. Adrian pointed at the enemy cruisers, the backbone of the Exceller fleet. Target their midline vessels, break their formation. Jonas grinned with pleasure. Sir, the Warhammer rail guns fired again, and this time the blast tore through two enemy cruisers. At once, the explosion ripped them apart, sending debris flying in all directions. Panic spread through the Sealer fleet. Their commanders were shouting over comms, trying to regroup inside his flagship. Warlord Ciro growled, This is not possible. He had never seen a human ship fight like this. It had moved like a beast in a pack of sheep, and the worst part, it was winning. Desperate counterattack. Ciro's second in command, Commander Zeller, turned toward him. My lord, they are cutting through our ranks. We must. Croth raised a hand, silencing him. His red eyes burned with anger. They think they are predators. Then let us remind them who the true masters of war are. He leaned forward and spoke a single command: board them. Enemy on the Warhammer. Back on the Warhammer. The battle outside raged on, but inside, something far worse was about to happen. A warning flashed on the bridge console. Ert multiple NMDS. TJ's face paled. Sir, they're coming. Aboard. Adrian's stomach tightened. The Exhale Tar weren't just attacking from the outside. They had deployed boarding pods, and they were breaching the Warhammer hull. The enemy was about to bring the fight inside. Adrian activated the ship-wide cons. All security teams, prepare for close quarters combat. The enemy is inside from the lower decks. Gunfire erupted. Screams echoed through the ship's corridors. The Exaltar warriors had arrived, and now it was man versus alien in a fight for survival. The turning point. The Warhammer shook violently as enemy boarding pods slammed into its hull. The ship's automated defenses tried to fire, but the Exaltar were too fast. Inside the lower decks, the sound of metal tearing apart filled the air as the aliens cut through the Warhammer armor. Then hissing steam, sparks flying. The hole burst open, and the sealer poured in a brutal fight for survival. The Exceller warriors were twice the size of a human, their black armor pulsing with red energy, their claws dripped with toxin, their weapons humming with deadly plasma. They had conquered countless species before they thought humans would be easy. They were wrong. Humanity's fury. The Warhammer security teams were waiting the moment the Exceller stepped inside. They were met with gunfire. Shotguns ward pulse rifles spat blue energy. Grenades exploded, tearing through the alien ranks. The first wave of sealer fell, their bodies collapsing in pools of black blood, but they kept coming. The battle spreads across the ship. Hallways became war zones. In the engineering bay, human engineers fought with wrenches and plasma cutters, defending the ship's reactor. In the medical bay, injured crew members grabbed pistols, fighting for their lives. In the main hangar, a squad of Marines barricaded themselves, using overturned crates as cover, holding back an entire XR assault team. Jonas, the Warhammer weapons officer, had never fought on foot before, but now he stood in the bridge hallway, a rifle in his hands, firing at a monstrous sealer charging toward him. And lunged its claws inches from Jonas' throat. Down, a shot rang out, and the Exaltar collapsed. Jonas turned to see Commander Elena Carter, her pistol smoking. "Don't freeze up, Lieutenant," she said, reloading. "They don't wait." Jonas took a shaky breath. Noted the captain joins the fight on the bridge. Captain Adrian Wolf heard the desperate reports from all decks. "They've taken Section 5. We're losing ground near the armory. More of them are boarding." Adrian gritted his teeth. The Warhammer was winning outside, but inside they were losing. He stood up from his chair, grabbing a sidearm from his belt. "Commander Carter, you have the bridge," he said. Jonas looked up in shock. "Sir, where are you going?" Adrian cocked his gun. "To take my ship back." The final stand. The battle raged for hours. The Exaltar kept pushing forward. Humans refused to fall. Hand-to-hand combat in tight corridors. Fists, knives, even tools used as weapons. No mercy, no surrender. Then a shift. The Exaltar began to falter. Their forces were thinning. Their warriors, once confident, were hesitating. They had never faced humans like this before, humans who fought like demons. And then the Warhammer I activated a shipwide EMP pulse. The Exaltar energy weapons flickered, then died. They were left with only their claws, and the humans still had their guns. Victory in blood. The Warhammer forces counterattacked. Exaltar fell in droves. Corridors were cleared deck by deck. The Warhammer was reclaimed by the time the last sealer warrior was slain. The floors were slick with blood, human and alien alike. The Warhammer crew had won, but the cost was heavy. Hundreds of human soldiers lay dead. The ship's halls were scared by battle, and yet the Warhammer still stood. And outside, the Exaltar were beginning to realize their mistake, because the humans were still fighting, and now they were angry. The Exceller prepared their ultimate weapon on the XR flagship. Dreadfang Warlord Cyro was furious. How he growled, slamming his fist onto the control panel. How did one human ship destroy an entire boarding force? Commander Zeller, battered and shaken, hesitated before answering the humans. "They don't break like other species, my lord. They fight like animals." Zero narrowed his eyes. "Animals, no beasts. Monsters. If he didn't crush them now, they would become a threat to the Dominion itself." He turned toward his weapons officer. "Prepare the annihilator cannon. Target the Warhammer." The officer hesitated. "But my lord, that weapon is meant for planetary destruction." Cyro's eyes burned with rage. "That ship is more dangerous than a planet fire now." The Warhammer, last chance on the Warhammer. Bridge alarms blared. "Captain, we have a problem," Jonas reported, sweat dripping down his face. "The enemy flagship is charging a super weapon." Adrian's heart pounded. He turned to the main screen. There it was. The Dreadfang had shifted position, its lower hull glowing with dark red energy. That wasn't just a weapon. That was a planet killer, and it was aimed directly at them. The bridge went silent. Every crew member realized the same thing. If that cannon fired, the Warhammer was finished. Adrian's mind raced. There was only one option left. He stood up from his chair. "We're going in." Jonas blinked. "Sir." Adrian's voice was firm. "Prepare for a full-speed collision." Silence, then realization. Jonas' eyes widened. "You're going to?" Adrian nodded. "We have one shot. We take it or we die." He pressed the ship wide comms. "All hands abandon ship." "That's an order." The final charge. Escape pods launched as the Warhammer crew evacuated. Fire burned from the ship's damaged hull as it pushed forward at full speed. Engines roared, overloading as they gave everything to this final charge. Inside the bridge, Adrian stood alone, hands on the controls. The Dread Fang loomed closer. Its cannon glowed brighter, seconds away from firing. Cyro watched from his throne, a wicked smile forming. Fire, a pulse of red death, blasted toward the Warhammer, but the Warhammer was already there. Boom! The collision was instant. The Warhammer smashed into the Dread Fang's weapon core, ripping through its hull like a spear through flesh. A shockwave erupted. The planet killer cannon overloaded. The Dreadfang didn't just explode, it detonated like a supernova. The fall of the Teller fleet. The blast poured through the Siller ranks, ripping ships apart. The once great fleet was in flames. Surviving Siller captains saw the destruction and panicked. They didn't care about honor anymore. They only wanted to escape this nightmare. By the time the smoke cleared, the Exaltar were gone. The first Star Destroyer of Earth had won, but at a terrible cost. The legacy of the Warhammer. Hours later, rescue teams found the escape pods drifting near Titan. Adrian's crew had survived, but the Warhammer was gone. It had become legend. Across Earth, news spread of the greatest human victory in history. The Exaltar Dominion never returned to Sol. They feared the monsters who had destroyed them. And deep in a secret military base, blueprints for a fleet of Star Destroyers were being drawn, because now humanity was no longer the hunted. They were the hunters. The legacy of the Star Destroyer. The battle was over. The Exceller fleet had been destroyed. Their warships lay scattered across space, burning wreckage drifting into the void. Those who survived had fled, terrified of the monsters they once thought weak. The Warhammer was gone, but its sacrifice had saved Earth, a galaxy forever changed. The story of the Warhammer Last Stand spread across the stars. Among the surviving alien civilizations, whispers of humanity's power grew. Some feared them, calling them the fire that burns the dark. Some admired them, believing they had proven their right to rule among the stars. And some saw them as a new threat, a rising power that could not be ignored. For the first time in galactic history, Earth was no longer overlooked. Now they were respected. Now they were feared. The survivors, and a cost of victory in a hidden military base on Titan's surface. The Warhammer surviving crew stood in a silent memorial. A black metal plaque was placed in the center of the command hall. On it, a single inscription: "Here stood the first Star Destroyer of Earth. Its fire lit the path for all who followed. We will not forget." Captain Adrian Wolf and his officers stood before it, remembering those who had been lost. Jonas Reed clenched his fists. "We should have saved the ship." Adrian placed a hand on his shoulder. "We did something better." Jonas frowned. "What's better than saving the Warhammer?" Adrian turned toward a massive hangar where rows of new Star Destroyers were under construction. "We started something that can't be stopped." The birth of the Star Destroyer fleet. Earth had learned a valuable lesson. They could not rely on others to protect them, so they built more. The UE Warhammer, the bigger, stronger, faster. The UE's Titans Wrath equipped with rail guns capable of breaking a battleship in half. The UEA. Vengeance. A new class of warship designed for deep space combat. A fleet was rising, one that would ensure humanity was never threatened again, a warning to the stars. In the heart of the Sealer Dominion, a secret meeting was held. The high warlords of the Empire gathered in a darkened chamber, their faces grim. Styro was dead, their invasion had failed. One of the warlords spoke, "We must retaliate." Another shook his head, "You saw what they did. We lost an entire fleet to one ship." A heavy silence fell over the chamber. Finally, their supreme overlord spoke, "For now we watch. But if the humans ever dare cross into our territory again," he clenched his fist, "we will end them." A new dawn for humanity back on Earth. The night sky was no longer just stars and empty space. Now it was a battlefield, a frontier waiting to be conquered. And as the first of the new Star Destroyers prepared for launch, one thing was clear. Humanity would never be prey again. They were hunters now, and the galaxy would never be the same.